Welcome to today's update. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's the latest. If Netflix's new action sequel The Old Guard 2 told a self-contained story, it would be easy to praise as a good not great follow-up to one of the most quietly compelling action movies of the decade. But there's something more complicated going on here. Where the first Old Guard occasionally felt like a pilot for a riveting new TV show, The Old Guard 2 plays more like a cliffhanger season finale. Even more so than Avengers, Infinity War or The Hunger Games, Catching Fire, this film is a middle entry designed to tease a grand conclusion that won't come until the final installment. The trouble is, the film's much-delayed release schedule isn't a huge vote of confidence that Netflix wants to renew this particular trilogy. The Old Guard 2 was filmed back in 2022, but had to pause its post-production due to corporate regime changes and the various Hollywood strikes. So far, Netflix hasn't announced any details about if or when a third installment might arrive, which makes it especially odd to watch a movie that leaves so many of its themes and story beats unfinished. And, unfortunately, that's not the only way in which The Old Guard 2 is less than the sum of its parts. The strength of the first film came from the contemplative existentialism and nuanced subtextual character work that director Gina Prince by the Wood and her cast poured into Greg Rucka's story of immortal warriors working as for-hire mercenaries. What could have just been a basic, well-choreographed action vehicle became something much bolder and more nuanced. A bone-crunching hand-to-hand combat flick that also dealt with depression, suicidal ideation, centuries-spanning queer love stories, moral purpose, and the lived-in friendships of Boss Andy aka Andromache of Scythia, Charlize Theron, and her crew of fellow immortals. This time around, however, Prince by the Wood has handed over the directing reins to Victoria Mahoney, Yelling to the Sky, who takes a much more straightforward approach to the material. The cast is back, as is Rucka, who also wrote the graphic novels on which the series is based. So in that sense there's welcome continuity between the two films. But The Old Guard 2 is broader, zippier, and more caught up in explaining the rules of its immortal superheroes rather than simply living in their complex emotional reality.